First Ladies Barbara and Laura Bush will both be in Grand Rapids today to speak at a luncheon. 24-Hour News 8's Tom Hillen is live at the Gerald R. Ford Presidential Museum with what this day-long conference is all about. Hi, Tom.
Well, good morning to you, Emily. It really is a unique opportunity to have both of those First Ladies here at one time speaking in Grand Rapids. They'll be talking about life in the White House, what it's like to be a First Lady, and kind of define that role for us. Now, like you said, Emily, it's not just a luncheon happening today, but there's an all-day conference happening in Grand Rapids that is highlighting America's First Ladies. Now, unfortunately, if you don't already have your ticket, the registration for the events is closed, but of course, we'll be able to bring you inside access to that luncheon on later editions of 24-Hour News 8. Now, today's luncheon is going to give us a look at exactly what it is that First Ladies do. They play a large role in history, yet that role isn't defined. Now, they are expected to be front and center during their time at the White House and usually like to bring awareness to a specific issue. During her time at the White House, Betty Ford was a big advocate of women's rights, and both the Bushes that are going to be here today have largely and continue to largely focus on education and literacy. Now, after the Bushes pack up and leave, it won't be long before another First Lady is here in West Michigan. Hillary Clinton is scheduled to speak to the Economic Club of Grand Rapids in June. Live at the Gerald R. Ford Presidential Museum in downtown Grand Rapids, Tom Hillen, 24-Hour News 8.
Welcome back. It's 5:48 right now. Former First Ladies Barbara and Laura Bush will be in Grand Rapids today, remembering Betty Ford's 95th birthday.
This morning we're joined live by one of the people working to make this all happen, Joseph Calvaruso, Executive Director of the Ford Foundation. Good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thanks so much for coming in here to talk to us. How rare is it, tell me, how rare is it to have two First Ladies in the same city at the same time?
Oh, that's very unusual, and it's just happened a couple of times. They've done this program at a couple of the other presidential museums, so it's a rare opportunity that we have here in Grand Rapids today.
What exactly is going to happen today? Can you give us a rundown of what's going to happen?
It's an all-day symposium. We start out the first part of the morning with a teacher symposium where we're talking about curriculum and materials that are available and the significance of First Ladies. The keynote address at noon with the two First Ladies and the U.S. Archivist. And then this afternoon we have two panel discussions, one talking about First Ladies and the transition through history of the significance of First Ladies, and then we're going to focus on Mrs. Ford's significance with the final panel discussion with Richard Norton Smith, Susan Ford Bales, and Stephen Ford.
Really interesting stuff there. One real quick question for you here. A lot of rock bands will require like a room full of flowers or M&Ms, that sort of thing. What do First Ladies require when they have some kind of meeting here?
They're very easy. Both Mrs. Bushes are very easy to deal with. They were both excited to come to Grand Rapids and pay their respects. And not only is it Mrs. Ford's 95th birthday today, it's President Ford's 100th birthday in July this year.
All right, thank you so much, sir. We appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you.
Well, today would have been First Lady Betty Ford's 95th birthday, and there are some big names coming to West Michigan today to commemorate the day. First Ladies Barbara and Laura Bush will both be in Grand Rapids today to speak at a luncheon. 24-Hour News 8's Tom Hillen is live at the Gerald R. Ford Presidential Museum with what this day-long conference is all about. It's a big day, Tom.
It really is, Emily. It's so unique to have those two First Ladies here at the same time speaking openly. It'll really give people that get to see it a chance to really discover who they are as people and also give them a chance to really tell us what it's like to be a First Lady. Now, it's not just that luncheon happening, but there's an actual all-day conference going on as well, honoring and really highlighting America's First Ladies. Now, unfortunately, if you don't already have tickets or have registered for the event, registration has closed, but of course we'll bring you inside coverage of that luncheon later on in the day. Today's luncheon is going to give us a look at exactly what the role of a First Lady is. Now remember, First Ladies, they do play a large part in history, but being First Lady does not come with a defined role, nor does it come with a salary. However, they're still expected to be front and center, and they often or usually will bring an issue that is close to them to the forefront. Now, Betty Ford, during her time at the White House, was very outspoken about women's rights, and both the Bushes that are here today are focusing on education and literacy. Now, I want to show you, we have a program already ahead of today's events, and you can see here, it highlights here both Barbara and Laura Bush. It gives a brief background of them, but coming up in about 20 minutes or so, we're talking with biographer and historian Richard Norton Smith about even more in depth of what these two ladies stand for and really that big role, a historical perspective on the First Ladies. Live at the Gerald R. Ford Presidential Museum, Tom Hillen, 24-hour News 8.
Welcome back at 6:20 right now. Today would have been Betty Ford's 95th birthday. And to help mark the occasion, there are two former First Ladies who are going to be in Grand Rapids this morning.
Both Barbara and Laura Bush will be in town today, appearing at a luncheon. 24-hour News 8's Tom Hillen is live with the former director of the Ford Presidential Library with more on what's happening today. Tom?
Well, good morning, Brett and Emily. Yes, it's a big day here in Grand Rapids, not only because we're welcoming those two former First Ladies here, but we're also remembering Betty Ford on what would have been her 95th birthday. And this morning we are joined by historian and biographer and former director of the Ford Presidential Museum, Richard Norton Smith, and kind of talk to us from a historical perspective about the role of First Ladies.
Well, it's a role that has evolved significantly, not least of all because of this camera out here. Beginning really with Teddy Roosevelt, presidents came into our homes in ways that had never been the case before, and First Ladies became advocates, they became champions of causes. It's hard to imagine a First Lady today who didn't have a cause. Mrs. Ford pioneered more than most. She made it possible for First Ladies to speak their mind with a candor that people found either startling or refreshing.
Historically, how would you say that Mrs. Ford has been remembered? How has time really preserved her?
Well, you know, she's unique in the sense that in many ways her greatest historical legacy is in the years after she left the White House because, of course, her work with the Betty Ford Center. Her frankness about, first of all, her breast cancer, the surgery, and then subsequently her problem with addiction probably has done more to transform and in some cases preserve lives than what most presidents do. President Ford, you know, before he died said that when history is written, it will record that her contribution to the country was greater than his.
All right, Richard Norton Smith, we want to thank you very much for your time this morning. And again, a very historical event happening today. And unfortunately, if you don't have tickets, all the events are already sold out. However, we will be able to bring you some coverage of that luncheon with First Ladies Laura and Barbara Bush later today. Live at the Gerald R. Ford Presidential Museum, Tom Hillen, 24-hour News 8.
Well, it's 6:47 right now, a very rare occasion. Former First Ladies Barbara and Laura Bush will both be in Grand Rapids today.
They're here to honor America's First Ladies and remember Betty Ford on her 95th birthday. This morning, we're joined live by one woman who knew these First Ladies very well, Anita McBride, former Chief of Staff to Laura Bush. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's just our pleasure. Thank you so much for talking to us this morning. You got to tell us, Anita, what is it like working for a First Lady?
It was one of the most extraordinary experiences, professional and personal experiences I ever had. It's really what has led me to chair this conference series, to tell their story, to tell just how hard they work on behalf of the nation. I really had the opportunity for a bird's eye view to history, and I've so enjoyed being able to tell their story on the road at the presidential libraries. And Grand Rapids has truly rolled out the red carpet for us.
Talk a bit about the changing roles of the First Lady over the years.
Well, it has evolved. It most definitely has. But throughout our history, all the 40-plus women who have served in the role, and as Pat Nixon called it, the hardest unpaid job in the world, every single one of them has made an enormous contribution to our country. And I think the biggest change is that Americans have a greater expectation of what the First Lady should do with their role. We absolutely expect them to use their voice and to use this platform that's temporary in a way that really pushes issues forward.
And in order for that to happen, Anita, they have to have some really strong personalities behind the scenes to help kind of chauffeur them through this whole process here.
Sure.
And you did that. So how
Sure.
tough was it? How much pressure was on you to make them look good?
Well, you do feel the pressure. Of course, you know, you're working for a highly visible principal, that every word they say, every step they take, every hair that's in place or not in place is seen around the world. And so you do feel the pressure, but it is really an extraordinary feeling to know you can travel with them around the world and around the country and really make a difference and touch people's lives. I think what I will remember most is just the way Mrs. Bush connected with people all over the world, and really they felt like they were the only person in time at that moment. And that's something that really is left with me. But you know what, we had a lot of support. We had a great staff, people that felt empowered to work for Mrs. Bush. She was easy to work for, and at the end of the day too, what made it easy for us to do our job is that she was there for her husband, and each of these women are invested in the success of their husbands' administrations. So I had all the support of the West Wing and the president's staff too, because they knew she was there to help him.
Thank you, Anita, for sharing that incredible section of your life with us. What an amazing time in your life.
I was lucky. Thank you.
Thank you. Anita McBride, the Chief of Staff to Laura Bush.